There we go. Welcome to Managing Software Teams in Seattle. Nate, go.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming. I think we have a couple new faces, so welcome to this event. Appreciate you doing yet another online call after your day of online calls. So I was looking outside and I was like, man, I hope it's raining. Similar people come. So this is kind of the agenda of how the day, how this event's going to go. It's very informal, laid back. We're going to talk. Ron and I are just going to give a quick overview of what we do here and why we have this meetup. And then our guest speaker is going to talk for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to do about 15 minutes of actual breaking up into smaller groups. We can do a little bit of informal networking as much as we can online, and then we'll come back and do some Q&A, have a discussion, and we'll wrap it up by 7. Meeting logistics. Okay, obviously everyone's done online meetings. Okay, so
except we haven't seen the new graphic, Nate. So thank you.
Yeah, I got a new one. This makes me laugh. Feel free to ask questions as you go. I think you said you're okay with that. So, if there's clarifying questions or something you want to add, just pop off mute. We don't have that big of an audience. The reason we do this is, really because managing software development teams is hard. That's, that in a nutshell. So I have a military background as a former Air Force pilot, and got out, and I've been doing agile coaching and Scrum Master work and just really helping teams get aligned and in step, and started Form 100 Consulting. I bring in other former military officers. We do the same thing for other clients. And so we basically use what we learned in the military. That's why I like this talk, because it's very relates to a lot of what we do. And a while back I'd gone to a meetup group, and Ron was speaking, and he spoke a lot of the same things, so much so that I thought Ron had been in the military, because we were kind of aligned on how you approach leading teams. And when we started talking, we said, like, there's really not a place where we can go and software engineering managers can get together and do some networking and build a community, and learn from others. And so that's really what we tried to do. We started this off in person maybe a year and a half ago. And then we've done the last few online because of COVID, but really it's a space for everyone to just take a second to step out of their roles and out of firefighting, and kind of think a little more strategically about their position and their teams. So Ron,
yeah, one of the things that aligned that with me, I wrote one of the very few books on managing software people and teams. When I became a manager, when Mickey and I wrote our book, when Mickey Mantle and I wrote our book on managing the unmanageable, we counted the number of books on managing software people and teams. And you probably all know there are just tons of books on Agile, there are tons of books on project management, there's tons of books on waterfall, tons of books on project management, but almost none on managing the people who deliver software and the people in teams. And Mickey and I started writing, and we spent 8 years writing, managing the first edition of Managing the Unmanageable. And during that 8 years, we became just much better managers. Part of that writing about managing, makes writing about anything. So I wrote about programming before I wrote about managing, back when I was a programmer, and I became a better programmer. Writing about managing, you become a better manager. But part of it was Mickey and I getting together and spending time talking about the challenges of managing and how to solve those kinds of things. And that there's just so much value to co-mentoring. And so that's what we've been, Nate and I have been trying to do, is create an environment in which we can co-mentor. I think that's probably this slide. The next slide is there. Take a screenshot of this if you want to discount code for managing the unmanageable.
Perfect.
All right, so we're going to run a poll for Mike to give us an idea of who's here. So we've got 13 people in the audience, and let me launch the poll. And we're about two-thirds yes so far. Two-thirds yes are all friends of Nate's. Up to 9 out of 12 people have answered.
Where should I see the poll? I don't see the poll.
10. Matt, it doesn't come up for you?
No, where?
It should have come up on top. And well, unless you've got multiple monitors, which you've got, yeah, scanning all the monitors. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but it is a Zoom poll, so it should be on one of your Zoom windows. All right, we're 12 for 12. I'm going to end the poll. So can everybody see that now, the results? Share. I have to click share the results. Now you should be able to see it.
Nice.
And we're at 50-50, Mike. So there's the 50-50 in terms of having prior military experience, and slightly higher than that for having people on our teams.
Cool.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, good mix with some prior service here. So, yeah. So when we were looking for a speaker, I really wanted to do one on this topic, and Mike was gracious enough to come join. So, just a quick intro on Mike. So, graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy. Did some active duty work as a submarine officer on nuclear submarines. Yeah, nuclear submarine officer. And then transitioned to the Naval Reserves and held various staff leadership positions, retired as a captain in the Navy. And then private sector wise, been an engineer, manager, and director, and is the current senior director of engineering at InfoBlox in Tacoma. So we've had chats about this type of topic before, and super excited to have you join. And thanks again, Mike.
Thank you, Nate.
So with that, I'll stop sharing, and you can have the floor.
Hey, great. Thank you, Nate and Ron, and pleasure to have all of you there. And let me thank each of you for your service in whichever branch it may have been in. I'll go ahead and share my screen, and with any luck, hey, what do you know? All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, when Nate approached, I wasn't sure if I was the agile guy or the engineering guy, but maybe the one thing that I could offer that might have a little bit different perspective than others in the group is some of the management lessons from the submarine force. Now, a lot of those will carry over, and that's what it's about, will carry over to day-to-day life. So my hope is that we can have a conversation even as we go through this. I'll describe a few vignettes and then ask you how these kind of things sound to you. You'll see a little bit more about what that looks like here in a minute, but I think it's always important to understand people's perspective. If you ask about a perspective from, say, the Navy or the submarine force or staff, it's important to know, well, who's in the submarine and been under ice and in an undersea warfare capacity. If you ask about perspective as a coach, you'd get a completely different answer. So it's always nice to know how people are describing their observations. So these are observations out of the submarine force. Now, submariners are a bit special. I'm a recovering submariner. And if you ask them, they'd say, well, I work in an environment that's unforgiving, high pressure, it's technically demanding and requires a lot of teamwork. And oddly enough, that's the exact same thing that you'd probably describe if somebody said, what is your work environment? And what are some of the key challenges in there? So as technology leaders in this group, I look forward to hearing from each of you and hopefully make this a very interactive session. And not just in the Q&A part, but as we go through. Now, I don't need to tell any of the prior service folks this, but military and corporate leadership have a lot of parallels. They're both goal-oriented. If you're in software development, you need to architect, develop, deploy, and operate some sort of feature or a suite of features. If you're in the undersea warfare business, maybe you remain undetected, penetrate enemy battle space, and kill them, or neutralize them. There's some return, some ROX. In the case of business, oftentimes we talk about return on investment, but in the military, there's value on investment. It might not be measured in dollars and cents, but it's measured in security, prestige, influence, peace of mind. So there is some value on investment no matter where you are. So we both live in those worlds. And if we don't carry out our goal or our return on X, people want to know about it. It doesn't matter whether you're in military or corporate world, they want to know. So hopefully we're going to learn from one another. I solicit your input on these and let's just start. So management lessons from the deep. It's okay not to know. When you think about a submarine, you've got a nuclear reactor, you've got nuclear fuel, you've got nuclear engineers, you've got mechanical engineers, you've got electrical engineers, you have radiation technologists, and that's just the reactor. And then you have a life support system, and you have a sonar system, an electrical system, a computer system, a distribution system, and a food system. Each one of those things, entire businesses are made on, but somehow you're supposed to understand how all that works. Maybe some of those you can go deep on. Maybe you can core to the center of the earth in some of those topics, but a lot of them you can't, and you depend on somebody else. So one of the lessons that I take away from the submarine force is it's okay not to know. You can't know everything, and it's a complicated world. This breaks down in two ways. You can probably break down a lot of other ways, but the first is when you say it's okay not to know, you all of a sudden open the door to leading in ambiguous situations. Now you don't have a conversation around why don't you know? You have a question about we don't know this. So how are we going to find out? Let's build an experiment. That's what we do when we're scientists, when we're engineers. We build an experiment. Ambiguities are different. Let's build an experiment, resolve that ambiguity. Let's figure it out. The other aspect to this is that it creates some authenticity and indeed vulnerability. And those are really important characteristics of leaders. Everybody knows people aren't bulletproof. The question is, do you admit it? So if it's okay not to know, how do people know that? How does that sound? What does that sound like? Well, here's where I want your input. Here's an idea. If it's okay not to know, then you should say so. So what does that sound like? It's, hey, I've got an idea, but I need some more evidence to be convinced this is right. Or, I don't know, who does know? Or, hey, Beth is the expert in that area. Let's get her input. So what I'm hoping for is to have you all grab that chat box and put in what that sounds like to you. Tell me how you can say, it's okay not to know. I don't know, without sounding like it's a bad thing. Say, hey, we don't know this. Tell me what that sounds like to you. Give me a catchphrase. Give me a couple words that says, hey, here's how we're going to find out. Or we don't know. Here's what we're going to do. I'm watching my chat. Hey, there we go. I'm at the edge of the map of my own knowledge. That's a good one. What would you recommend? Yeah. We have an opportunity to grow our knowledge base on this subject. That's a good one. Thanks, Ken. Tony says, that detailed concept is new to me. What would you advise me to focus on? Hey, really, really good. That helps you operate as a team, right? You're not a one-man show. You're not a one-woman show. You're a team. We got, here's what I think, but I feel like I might be wrong. Hey, that's good. What other options should we explore? I'm not sure about the answer to that. I'll learn more and share what I learned with you. I don't know much about this. Where can I learn more? Excellent. Really good. All right, we're going to keep on doing this. So here's the next one. This is really important in terms of caring and feeding of people. People figure out who is looking after them. So think about who is looking out after your people. Is it you? Is it them? Is it someone else? They figure out really quickly if they're isolated and they have to watch out for themselves. Or if they can go out long for something and it's going to be okay to fail because my boss has my back. It's going to be okay. We'll talk about failure in a little bit, but the other question is somebody else? Maybe it's the admin. Maybe it's some other manager. Maybe it's your boss that's actually kind of coming into your organizational system and poking around a little bit. Well, don't give up the high ground of looking out after your people. That is critically important. They will do things for you that they won't do for anybody else if they know you're looking out for them. So what does that sound like when you take care of your people? So one, probably really, really salient these days is that, hey, you haven't taken PTO this year at all. I've reviewed the books. Let's talk about when it might be a good time for you to get some PTO in. Or, hey, yeah, every one of you I know gets a whole bunch of emails on seminars and whatnot, probably from a vendor that you have or what have you. Maybe that seminar is something that one of your people should attend. So, hey, Becky, Bob, I saw this seminar. You might be interested in it. Take a look. And if you are, let's talk about how you might attend. Some of these are HR driven, by the way. A lot of times we tune out HR. HR is one of your most powerful tools to enable people. So, hey, did you know we have a tuition assistance program? And it's probably for your more junior members, but it might be for some senior people that want to get some new skills. So, hey, have you ever thought about going back for a certificate or this program or what have you? I can help you get there. So get ready. What's your answer? What does it sound like when you take care of people? Give me a little soundbite that says, hey, I care about you. All right. How can I help you? Is there anything you need? Taking Friday off? Nice. Thank you. I'd like to share a technique, tool, book, resource that might help you. Thank you. Take care of it. Take care of yourself first. Good. I had a manager who signed me up to talk to his boss, adding, I'll be your human shield. I like that one. That's really good. Where do you want to go in your career? Excellent. Career conversations are awesome. How do you feel? How can I help you own this? What can I do to make your job better? What's going to make working here better for you? My Jerry Maguire response, help me help you. What can I do for you? Oh, that's really good. Are you getting to work on things that are interesting to you? That's great, Tony. Thank you for that. Matt says, ask them for help if you need help. And I, manager, am taking an extended weekend. That's nice. Set the example. Take some PTO yourself and then say, you need to take as much PTO as I am. And I expect you to do that. So, hey, thank you for those inputs. Let's see, I'm going to work hard and deliberately to ensure you don't become dependent on my help. Nice, really good. Great engagement. Thank you, everybody, for that one. Let's go to the next one. Own your failures, especially your teams. There was a comment in there about human shield. I love that. So, first note here, nothing gets solved without apportioning blame. I know that you've been in meetings. I know something has gone wrong sometimes, and you've been sitting there, and the very first thing that happens is somebody wants to find the guilty SOB that did blah. Or why did this team do this? Or who's responsible? Somebody wants to pillory somebody else. Most organizations like that. Some are not, and that's awesome. But a lot of them need to have that apportioning of blame take place. And I'll tell you a really quick story. I was in a meeting one time, and a guy that I knew, and he was one of the leaders, but I knew he had no idea about what happened. Just jumped on the hand grenade and said, yeah, this did not go the way that it should have gone. That's my fault, and I'm sorry for that. Let's talk about how we can do better. And all of a sudden, we moved on. So first nugget here is don't get stuck in apportioning blame. Take the blame and watch what happens. Everybody knows if it's not your fault, that it's already not your fault. If it's one of your team members, shield them. Comment from the previous slide. Great. And I had no idea people were going to make that comment about being a human shield, but that's awesome. You get more dedication from you people if they know that you're going to shield them from the bad things that are going to happen. It also keeps your leadership structure intact. You don't want somebody that's poking around in people that report to you. So just cut that off right now. Say, no, if you have a problem, you talk to me. I will take care of it, but you don't have a conversation with them. We can talk to them about what happened, but we're not going to have any conversations around how dare you fill in the blank. That's not going to happen. Make it safe to fail. I was told one time that success is a poor teacher. I had to think about that for a while, but it's true. Here's a pro tip. When you are going into a failure situation, don't use pronouns at all. Don't say you or even, named Bob, or just, if you can, get it out of your language and definitely get it out of your writing. So say something like, that didn't go as designed. We will upgrade. Now, I know I've got a pronoun in there. I put this together hastily, but the point is, if you can get out of pronouns, you stop assigning blame and issues. Now, you can take responsibility. You can say, I will handle it. So it's okay to grab stuff, but don't point fingers, don't use pronouns, get past that apportioning of blame and get to solutioning. Good. Now we know not to look there. Again, I know there's a pronoun in there, but when we're talking about what happened, don't use pronouns. If you have to, use I. So here's your turn. How do you take ownership of that failure? Here we go. All right. How does it sound when your own failures and your team's failures? Oh, how does it sound when you own your team's failures? Thanks, Ron. Okay, that did not work. So eyes off the rearview mirror and focus on forward and work the solution. That's a good one. This is a little bit more complicated one. This isn't one that kind of rolls off the tongue. You got to gnaw on this a little bit. It's okay. How can we learn from what happened? That's a good one, Brian. Thank you. We tried something and it didn't work as well as we wanted. We learned X, Y, Z, and we'll push forward with that. Mistakes are part of the job. Thank you, Liz. I noticed there's a problem with fill in the blank. I clearly failed in bringing us together to solve this. Oh, good. Take responsibility. Jump on that hand grenade. We paid some tuition this time around, and we'll focus on how this could be mistake-proof. Oh, that's a good one. Thank you, Tony. Excellent. Some people refer to it as investment. Quick little backstory. Engineering, the art of engineering, different people say it came from different places. Oh, we got another one. Love the tuition commentary. Yeah. in trains, like steam locomotives, people used to just put them together and run them. And if you've ever been in a steam explosion or seen a steam explosion or a steam leak, especially terrifying in a nuclear reactor, it's ugly. It's awful. It is carnage everywhere. And the notion of engineering and saying, okay, now we have to apply math to this and models and really work this out on paper. The transition from build a locomotive and have it blow up to engineer it on paper happened as it became more and more expensive to blow up locomotives and everybody within a 100-yard radius. But sometimes it's cheaper to just do an experiment and have it fail. So that might be the best way to do it. You want to fail, you want to know what not to do. When you're walking through a minefield, you don't necessarily need to know where to step. You need to know where not to step. So failures are a very important part of things. Sometimes they come with blame. So we need to get in front of those and protect our people. SpaceX, very good. Yeah, when Elon Musk had a rocket explosion, he came back and said, well, the parts are bigger this time that blew up as opposed to just disintegrated into a million parts. All right, next one. When you say, I think, all thinking stops. So I'm sure you've been in a meeting and we're having conversation, and then the leader says, I think, fill in the blank. Most of the time, the thinking stops, the talking stops, and we say, okay, we're going to carry out what that guy wants. We're going to carry out what that gal wants. Avoid that if you can. Well, how do you do that? Well, this is a corollary to you can't know it all. So embody that and get the best ideas by speaking last. Let and expect your people to be the experts. I once had somebody tell me, if I have to learn this and know it, I don't need you. So I'm going to need you to do this. So go do it. I need you. That is your part of the team. Have at it. You don't scale. We know that. Managers are so busy, it's incomprehensible. You can't scale, but your team does. So push those decisions down to them and get them to bubble back up. So instead of saying, I think, maybe we say something like, hey, what are your best ideas? Or what does the data show us? All right, let's go. Audience participation. What do you guys think? What would you propose? Good one. Thanks, Ron. Brian, what are some options? Tony, what do you advise? Yeah, that's good. Good. Nate, what are the risks? All right, we might be at the bottom of the barrel on that one, so we'll move along. Similar to what we just talked about. Oh, wait, from Toyota's improvement, what is your next experiment? Or something like that. Very good. Very good. I like that. Thank you. And as a corollary to that, yet again, ask questions. A more collaborative approach. Use the Delphi method. Has anybody heard of the Delphi method? Okay.
Yes, but I don't remember it.
Okay. There's a little diagram down here. Let me see if I can move. There we go. Okay.
Is that the same as the nominal group technique?
Yeah, what it does is it's a way to census opinions. It's usually considered to be expert opinions, but it doesn't have to be. So you have a question and you separate, each one of these puzzle pieces is a person. You separate the questions. So a questionnaire, send out a Zoom poll, for instance, or what have you, and get the answer to a question, and then they all drop in. Somebody conducts analysis, and then maybe you can revote. So you say, now that everybody voted, you can vote again based on what everybody else has said. Sometimes you reveal who said what. Sometimes you make them anonymous responses. Sometimes you do a little analysis, hand that back, and refine things. So that's a typical thing that economists do when somebody says, hey, what do you think inflation is going to be the next year? Or the stock analyst, what do you think the stock market's going to be at the next year? Or oil price analysts, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? So it's a way of keeping your big shots from anchoring or biasing the decision, and as well as yourself, as well as keeping people out of what I call stuck on transmit. They're just talking, they're sucking out all the oxygen, and nobody else can get a dialogue in at all. So, well, oh, we've got a reference here. Oh, there we go, bingo. I presume that's a reference on Delphi?
Yeah, it's the actual Rand Corporation article from 1967.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Good job. So how do you ask questions? Well, I won't read these. You understand. Let's just go right to the boards here. How would you ask questions? Give me some ideas on how you can pose questions. What do those sound like? We want to walk away with ideas that inform our responses. Let's brainstorm silently for a few minutes, then share. That's a good one. What may be missing? What if we're wrong? What options do we have? What outcomes are we looking for? Good. I can read. It's just really hard when they're scrolling by really fast. What are the expected outcomes, and work backwards from there? Oh, that's excellent. That's definitely an Amazonian process. What do you think? How tightly do you hold to that opinion? What does success looks like? That's good. Can you explain the problem to me? Oh, I like that, Matt. Thank you. Of all the solutions we could pursue, what are the top two you would suggest? How will we solve similar problems? Really good. Really good. What would a minimum viable solution look like? MVP, MVS. Excellent. Hopefully people are reading through here and picking up some ideas that they can use. I know I am. I'm really appreciating the feedback here. All right, we're getting toward the end. One of the management principles that we see in the submarine forces that is very, very networked. Everybody knows everybody else. The question is, are you networked? So build your set of allies. At some point as a manager, you become valued for your team's accomplishments, not your own. You're going to be called on to solve problems you don't own. You'll be called on to solve problems with resources you don't own. And as complexity goes, so goes cross-department collaboration. So, hopefully your reports, your team are your allies. They're helping you out. They want to succeed as a team. And hopefully your manager wants your team to succeed, and they want you to play nice with your adjacencies in engineering. But what happens when you're doing something and it needs to get metered and it needs to go to finance, or HR has a challenge? Well, then maybe they're helping you with hiring, or maybe marketing doesn't understand how to make something happen. Some of the most effective relationships that you can make are outside your organization. Presumably it's engineering or software development. So how do we get those allies that are outside of our realm, that are going to help us succeed in ways we can't help ourselves? Because we oftentimes just operate inside our little silo, but we can really get a boost if somebody comes in from outside and said, hey, here's this product, and I really, really appreciated it when Ken collaborated on that, or when Tony came up with this great idea and helped us over here. that goes a long way in organizations, big and small. So how do you get allies? Well, get a mentor. You should have a mentor, and you should have one or more than one, but one of them should not be in your reporting chain of command. And if you're doing it right, one of them shouldn't even be in your department, because they can bring perspective that you will never get. They'll give you the inside baseball scoop on what's going on in their part of the world, and that's going to help you. Even if you don't think it is immediately, it's definitely going to help you. You can help that mentor too by saying, hey, yeah, this is how we see it over here, and maybe we can do a little something to make that work. But yeah, I got a little slack in this thing. Let me see if I can help you out with your problem. Find adjacency and socialize with them. It might be some just general problem that you're working on as a company, or maybe you can attend training or a social function. So over to the group, how can you generate allies in your organization? When I say organization, I mean your company. It could even be outside your company, and that's even better sometimes, but certainly within your company. How do you reach out and make those connections? To just give you a really quick aside, when Google does their page ranking, it's a directed graph, and they look at the number of links that go to a particular page. They look at a lot of other stuff too, but one of the things is links, and that's why I got that little graph there in the lower right-hand side. We're interested in how people connect to one another. So what do we have here? Help people as much as possible. That's good. How can I help you meet your goals? Oh, that's good. Become known as someone who helps others first, find common objectives and goals to rally around. That scrolled by too fast. Host a morale event. That's a great one. Connect with HR finance. Meet to discuss your project. Love that. Be a nice person. Yeah, no jerks. That really helps. Be the person you would want to be for an ally. Volunteer to do something like an additional duty. Excellent. Really, really good. And channel for support or ask questions to share information. Make targeted asks for help. That's a really good one. See what is in someone's background office for opportunities to connect. Oh, that's a really good one, especially with Zoom. It could be, a book back there or something else. You gotta be strategic about that. So excellent. Thank you, Ron. And that's it. We made it through the list. I can tell you right now, I got more out of the group's input than I gave. I certainly know that, but I hope to get invited back as an observer sometime. I want to thank you all for your participation. And just to let you know, we at InfoBlox are hiring. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. So if you have interest in working remotely or being down here in the South Sound, I'm in Tacoma, or areas, offices in the Bay Area or elsewhere, check out our website or hit me, and I'm happy to help you out. So thanks very much for your collaboration and participation. I'll turn it back over to Ron and Nate.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
What we're gonna do next is some small groups. We're gonna break into breakout rooms. So this is one of those collecting allies moments. So Nate, for groups of 4. Yeah. So probably 3 groups.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And we'll break out.
Yeah, so we'll do. So we'll go out for about 15 minutes. And then really this is your time. Just introduce yourself, and then really, just talk. And the real goal of it after the 15 minutes is that you come back, you have at least one question that you want to ask Mike when we get back into the Q&A session. So we'll do this for about 15 minutes, and then do about 30 minutes of Q&A, and then that'll be it.
So in your small groups, as you go around and introduce yourselves, come up with what's the key question to ask Mike when we come back out from your group, and we'll certainly get through one question from each group, but maybe 2 or 3. So prioritize them, make them a backlog. All right.
Very agile.
Yep. Perfect.
It's actually a painting of a photograph. So,
Oh,
Oh, cool.
but yeah, it's actually me.
That's awesome.
what's the plane?
Is it an F? Is that an F4?
That's an F4 Phantom right there.
Yeah.
And then this picture is an F-15E. Got some F-15s up there too.
Okay, so we've had 3 groups off. Group 1. Do we know which groups we were in? So group 1 was
I think we were one. So.
Brian, Jim, Casper, and Tony.
Yep.
Who wants to ask that question?
I'll start off. So I think our group had 2 questions. Real quick, one I brought up is difference between command and control and mission command / commander's intent. Seems like a lot of times managers devolve into this command and control, wanting to be in charge of things, when really you kind of want the other side to go with it.
Yeah, that's good. I think it depends a lot on the maturity of your team and how your team is structured. It also depends on, so when I say structured, I mean, do you already have technical leads in there and you know they're gonna self-synchronize and come up with the right answer? Do you have the right number of senior people, middle people, and junior people? And you need all of them, right? You can't have the Oreo cookie, at the top and the bottom cookie without the double stuff. A lot of people think you can run senior people and really junior people. It doesn't work. You need the double stuff in there too. So is your team structured correctly? And that includes things like time zones. How am I dealing with time zones? It might be you have to be a control gate or make sure that your team creates these clean handoffs, because I engineer something in this time zone, and I pass it over to India Standard Time, and then they do QA on it, and then it wraps back, and nobody ever talks to anybody except in the written word. So in some cases, you can say, no, this is not how it goes. So if you're, think about rowing in a shell, everybody's rowing together. You can't talk about going that way and winning the race when their oars are hitting each other. You got to start with, okay, we're going to do basic rowing. And once you get that, and once you're working as a team, so I'm in there command and control. Once I got that, and I got a good thing going, now I can say, go that way. Here's your objective. It's this, the race is this long, go now. So it depends on the maturity of your team. It depends on the structure of your team, and it depends on the demonstrated success along the way. If you're getting good success in the basic blocking and tackling, hands off. You don't need to touch that thing anymore. It is going to operate probably better without you. Spend your time navigating to the right solution.
Cool. Thank you. And then Casper, you had a quick question?
Yeah. So like in back of my head is since we're kind of slowly moving back to working in the office, and it seems like many companies offer like a hybrid option, like either work from home or work in the office. How do you prepare for this? Because it may, build some disbalance between, people in the office, they have, all the opportunity to talk to each other, say in meetings or so, and the virtual, they don't have this opportunity.
That is an awesome question, because right now we all operate on a digital commons. We are exactly the same. When you go back to the office, you have people that are in a different situation, which is what you just said. Here are a couple notes. If people are going to the office so that they can collaborate with somebody, but that somebody is not at the office, now they have to get on a Zoom session, and it is no better to operate that from the office than it is to do the same Zoom session from their home. There is almost no benefit. So part of this has to do with, if we're going to get together on a day, let's pick that day and get most of the people in and operate like that. Now, there might be 2 people that are remote, that are always remote, and they can't come in because they're 3 states away. Well, you have to figure that out. But the idea would be no one person should be at a digital disadvantage than anybody else. So if everybody's in a conference room, but 2 people are remote, that probably means everybody has their laptop, everybody's got their headphones, and everybody's on that digital commons. If you go to the whiteboard, you turn one of the computers around and you shoot the picture of the whiteboard and make sure they can participate in the whiteboard, or better yet, use an electronic whiteboard. So I think a lot of this has to do with the agreement on when people are going to be in the office, and if the office is still there, and if some are not, getting them into that digital commons. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really points out working agreements. So group 2, Joel, Liz, Mary, and Michael.
Yeah.
Ours was interesting because we had Michael. So
Ah.
there was no, like, big reveal of our question. We just talked to Michael quite a bit.
And do you want to do a reveal of the question and the Q&A?
Go ahead, Jane.
Yeah, somebody in the group, feel free to.
Okay, I think we had 2, and one was how to build empathy.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other is, how to remind managers to coach and empower.
Yes, I'm gonna thank everybody in the group and surf off some of the things that Joel, Nate, and Liz and Mary added. And one of the things is if I've got a situation where I'm putting out code, it's buggy and it's affecting my customers, how do I get my developers to connect and say, yeah, it's not okay to put that buggy code out because these bad things happen to our customers. It makes them feel bad. That's a revenue problem in general. But what we really want to do is to not even talk in terms of revenue. We could. What you really want to do is get the notion of empathy down. And there are a couple ways to do that. One is to have them use the product themselves. Hey, you built it, you use it. Oh, it doesn't work for you? How does that make you feel? Or get on with a customer service person that's handling the problem that the developers just deployed. And then they go, oh, yeah, that's tough. Or maybe go through an onboarding with the customer or talk to somebody that has to deal with that in a way that makes the developers change the lens with which they view their work.
I think that I'm currently working on writing documentation about our agile process at my company, and so I've been thinking about this a lot. And I noticed that a lot of teams aren't used to meeting very directly with customers or anybody who's customer-like. Even they get information second, third, fourth hand, and so their empathy is virtually zero. And so I'd say that if the software teams that we're talking about don't have a more direct line to the impact of, if their quality is not so good, it'll be hard for them to develop the right type of empathy that allowed them to be a self-managing team and therefore solve their own problem about this, deploying bad code. So anyway, the lack of empathy or the building of empathy is, I think, a big part of how a team, an agile team generally needs to serve its customers.
Well stated, Joel. Thank you.
All right, so group 3, Ken, Matt, Nate, and Steve.
Yeah, so we had some good conversations. One of the questions we wanted to bring up was, basically dealing with stress and dealing with like really stressful situations. So, being on a nuclear submarine, there's not a lot of options, right? You're in some high stress, the stakes are high, right? And things go wrong. And, when things go wrong, how do you, like, one, what kind of things that happened in your Navy career that you've used to help with the software, software teams that you're working with now? And then kind of like a follow-up to that is, when you're in those stressful situations, how do you learn to be vulnerable and say you don't know the answer, right? As the leader, just to say, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, those are hard questions. In terms of stressful situations and how do you perform well in stressful situations, sometimes you need that stress to get through it. One of the things I always ask myself is there fire or flooding? Both are bad on a submarine. If you have one of those two, then every bit of stress you have is going to help you, and adrenaline is going to help you solve that problem. But if the answer is no fire, no flooding, and by extension, nobody's dead or dying, then you go, okay, no fire, no flood. It is not a 3-alarm fire. I can back away from that a little bit. I go, okay, nobody's dying. Now, what's the problem? The way to direct and focus attention is to not, even though you might feel like it, is to not create panic and deep breathing and hand waving. It's to get to the problem. And one of the most challenging things is you want to solve the problem, but sometimes you don't even know what the problem is. So one of my sayings is 90% of the problem solution is the problem definition. Give me a good problem definition. What you give me is symptoms, okay? What caused that? What caused that? What caused that? Okay? These two things, okay? And get all the way down to when you can't say anymore what caused that, it's this happening. Okay, that's what caused. All right, so now let's deal with that. So working your way through root cause in a proactive fashion. Very often things are broken and customers need something, and you just have to put that aside because that's not going to help you. You need to understand the gravity of the situation, but having people yelling and screaming and saying the sky is falling is not going to help get that problem solved. So for yourself, things like, so I don't know if I've got any scuba divers out there, but if you're a scuba diver, you know that you never hold your breath. You breathe in nice and slowly, and then you exhale nice and slowly. And when you get used to that, there are different breathing mechanisms to help both keep your airflow in a consistent fashion, as well as calm you. So oftentimes you might find yourself actually taking short breaths, believe it or not. So one physical trick is to stand up. You don't have to do this with people. It's better if you're to the restroom or out in the hall or outside where nobody else is around. And you stand up tall and you be big, get your feet apart, at least shoulder width apart, and spread your hands out like that, like this, and reach and just take up space. And then breathe slowly. And once you're under control, then you come in and you say, okay, here's what we need to do. You still might not know what the problem is. You might not know what the answer is, but you can start leading a fact-finding mission. You can start dealing with ambiguity in a way that gets you to the solution. Get rid of blame, take the blame, get past that, get to the solution. So breathing, take up space, you be calm, your people will be calm. Don't blame anybody. Keep on asking what caused that? What caused that? Get to root cause. Tell me the other one again.
Yeah, that basically, you covered it both. It was, I mean, I think Matt or anyone else on the team did that.
Yeah.
I think we covered it.
That was good. I'll have to use is there a fire or flood? I like that.
Yeah, I think I get this on occasion too, and Brian could probably, in the pilot training, they teach us, if your engine starts on fire, to hack the clock for 60 seconds before you do anything. That type of just mentality, I think that you were saying, was just, you gotta just realize, like, understand the situation you're in, and because you could shut down the wrong engine. That's kind of the idea, right? Like, if you don't actually figure out what the problem is, you can make it worse.
Great point.
The other half of the question, I think, was how do you learn vulnerability?
I think that goes back to saying, I don't know, or yeah, I'm concerned. I am worried about this. If you've got an emotion, you can say it. You don't need to act it out, but you can say, hey, yeah, I'm worried about this. This is a concern. I know we need to do something here. So let's get to it. So we can, and you can say, hey, and you're probably, you can say the team, hey, I know you're probably worried about this. I know I am. So let's get to it. It's gonna be okay. The first meeting that we had, when everybody shut down, everybody went home and nobody knew what was going on with COVID, I called a team meeting. I said, bring a beverage. I don't care what it is. If you've got a pet, bring it. If you got a stuffed animal, you can bring that too. And let's just talk about how we're going to work through this. So everybody has feelings, and it's important to acknowledge those and then set them aside and say, okay, we got feelings. We're going to address them. Now let's move on. And it doesn't mean the feelings are gone. They're still there, but it allows us to acknowledge them and then overcome them.
I'm not an authority on vulnerability, but I do think it's really key for a leader to know how to model that behavior. And I think, just listening to you talk, I think the vulnerability examples that you gave, the I'm worried also perhaps is a form of vulnerability. But I would say even more so would be go directly at the things that people don't feel comfortable to say out loud. So if like, make it okay to not know, or make it okay to have made a mistake, or make it okay to kind of freak out, or like, you don't want to encourage too much freaking out, but to make it, like, model that it's safe to have emotion and to have problems. We're all flawed people, and to try to use your platform as a leader to say, I'm right there with you. Look, I'll prove it. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's a great ad. Really good. Thank you, Joel. Do we get to the bottom of our backlog?
Yeah, we had one more. Anyone else have anyone? Anyone else have a follow-up?
I think group one popped out both questions right up front. So go for it, Nate.
Sure. Yeah, there was a question around, how you handle, maybe the differences in career growth from your time in the Navy and in the private sector, and the military has a much more structured kind of process for how you get people promoted, and the private sector seems a lot more flat and a lot more ambiguous. So any insights there or thoughts around that?
That's a great question. For those that are in the military, there's nothing new. Every 3 years you're going to move. Now, it maybe you move jobs. It might not mean you have to move your household goods, but you're going to be in a different spot. Everybody's going to be in a different spot. So in some ways, everybody's a little bit off balance, because they're either showing up and learning the ropes, or they're getting ready to leave. And over those 3 years, maybe that 1 year, the second year is the one where you're neither getting ready to leave nor you're just new, and you kind of have things figured out. But you're always moving around, and part of that has to do with understanding a new part of that big apparatus called the military. You learn new skills, you learn new people, you build your network. Hopefully you come away with some really, really tangible nuggets of knowledge. In the commercial sector, we don't do that. You might get promoted, but you almost never move back and forth. Most of the places, unless you just can't stand it anymore and you say, I got to move or else I'm going to leave. The thing that you can't make, you can advocate for somebody and sponsor somebody if there's an opportunity for promotion. But the other thing you can do is always troll your company's career site and know who is looking for jobs. It might not be a promotion for somebody, but it might be a change. And that opportunity to take care of that person that says, hey, I just need a change, or go up to them and say, hey, you're really good at database. Let me ask you, are you ready to special in database? Or do you want to go more full stack and you need to be in military, or maybe you want to hang out in the UI for a little while? What do you want to do? And they say, well, military sounds kind of interesting to me. And you go, well, great. Becky over there has this military requirement. Now, it's not a promotion for you, but it'll lead you in your career to something that you just told me you wanted to do. Would you be interested in having that conversation? I can start it, or you can go over there and start it. Either way, I would absolutely advocate for you if you want to be there. I often say, when I place one of my people in a new spot, 2 out of 3 people are happy. It works for the company. It works for that person. Usually doesn't work out for me because I lost that person, but it creates an opportunity to scoop somebody else up. Maybe I make a trade somewhere else or bring somebody new in from the outside. So in that sense, it allows a little bit of renewal for the organization. And if you're truly a learning organization and a growing organization, those are the kind of things that you try and bring about. Most organizations do not do that. They don't do that trading of people. But it's one of the best things you can do for somebody's career, and it's free.
Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right, so a big round of applause for Mike for prompting this whole conversation and sharing all of what he knows.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that very much.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing it. Thanks to everyone for taking some time out of their day. The weather's getting nice, so like I said, we understand the pain of another another Zoom meeting, but we really do appreciate it, and I think we're gonna keep having these. So again, Mike, thanks so much. Hopefully everyone took away some nuggets and some things they can try with their teams. And then I'll say, as always too, feel free to reach out to me if you want to follow up with Mike. I'm sure Mike is okay having his contact information out. He did say he was hiring too. Okay, so if you have a direct line to InfoBlox now, so use it.
And a direct line to 3 or 4 other people.
That's right. That's right. So
thanks to Ron and Nate for organizing this. It was great to be here with you all.
Great. Well, hey, thanks everybody. Feel free to drop and reach out if you have any questions or anything else.
Liz, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I do. I have a question.
Oh, I thought you were clapping, Liz.
Oh, I was before, but then I was just doing the hand up. I got a link to this Zoom through like a random Slack thing. Where are you all organized? How do I find your next thing? What's next for this group?
Nate, you're collecting a mailing list.
Yeah, so if you sign up, we sign up through Eventbrite, then I send everyone out email reminders when we have them. We do some LinkedIn outreach.
Yeah,
we haven't blasted this out on Meetup yet and gone super broad. Talked about it.
Yeah, follow Nate on LinkedIn.
Or yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you all.